It's Pride Month, so I'm going to talk about being queer. Before I get into this, for those who are still learning about these things and don't feel safe to do so openly, this video has captions and visually will just have no association to anything queer. I'll just be taking a calm walk through the beautiful Kings Park of the Perth CBD, spotting birds and flowers, just taking in the scenery. It can just be some random inspirational waffle and scenic walk. If you need to leave the video and come back later, please do. Don't hesitate to keep yourself safe. Now that you've muted and captioned if needed, my name is Viridian Horizon, and I am a biromantic demisexual lesbian. There's a lot to unpack there, but for this video I'm just going to focus on the demisexual part, mainly because it's the least talked about, most confusing to others, and to me, the most interesting part of my queer experience. If you search for a definition of demisexual, you'll probably find something along the lines of a subtype of asexuality, where a person is only sexually attracted to people who they have an emotional connection to. And, well, yeah, that's a good definition, but what does that mean in a real person? For me, the most immediately relevant and relatable explanation I can give is that I've never found a stranger attractive. The only people that I have, or could potentially feel any physical attraction to, are people I already consider friends. I've never had a crush from afar, and I've never considered a physical relationship with someone I don't know. Now, I didn't think this is anything out of the ordinary. I didn't even notice I had a different experience, which sounds surprising, but in retrospect, it makes a lot of sense. In media, women in relationships are frequently depicted as uninterested in the physical parts of a relationship with their partner, who is typically a man. Combined with the aforementioned lesbian and biromantic, this lined up perfectly with my personal experience. I felt like I wanted a relationship, anything that falls under the, "Aw, that's so romantic." But when it came to physical aspects, I was uninterested. When I left high school, I was already in a long-term relationship with a man. Up until the age of 26, I was completely unaware of this part of my queer identity, and I think there are several reasons for this. The expectation that attraction is a fundamental human experience, alongside what is depicted in media, and then my own personal experiences, I determined that how I felt was how everyone else felt. I didn't know that demisexual was a thing that existed, so I connected all the dots I had to create a pretty convincing picture. I can go into that in a bit more detail another time if you're interested. Now, in a different committed relationship, I have managed to retrospectively tease apart my previous experiences and work out how mine differs to the general non-queer experience. So now it's time for things I didn't realise happened in the real world because I'm demisexual. Love at first sight. Or at least, finding someone attractive on first sight. I thought people only stopped being able to function, like breathing, speaking, thinking, in movies or books. I didn't realise that this actually happened to real people. I thought it was just another fictional exaggeration to make sure that you got the point. The Romeo and Juliet effect. A kind of literary device to move the plot along and make sure you ship the right pair. Every Disney villain that says, love at first sight doesn't exist, or like some other variant, made a lot of sense. Like, yeah, people don't actually get all woozy just at the first sight of someone. These characters are just acknowledging to the audience how contrived the situation was. Lampshading, if you will. Like, yeah, they just met and couldn't actually be attracted to each other this quickly, but we don't have a lot of time and we're just gonna take this shortcut, and it makes the most sense if the villain points this out because they are antagonistic to these characters. Okay? Great. And I'm just sitting there like, yeah, okay, no worries. Kind of following along from that is sex scenes in media. References are fine, I guess, but actual content? Please no. For me, it's uninteresting at best. Most of the time, just awkward and typically gratuitous. So much so that I skipped the whole scene. Bad dialogue would be better than this. Here's a challenge for you. Next time you're watching a show and a sex scene comes on, ask yourself this. Does this scene move the plot forward as much as you would expect from the amount of screen time it's given? Or could this time be better utilised for meaningful character development? Food for thought. This is one of the reasons I only typically enjoy movies and TV targeted ages under 15. I've recently been turned away from TV shows or movies that have an interesting premise, but have so much sexual content and references that I just don't want to watch anymore. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. And then there's advertisements. It actually boggles my mind that there are people out there that will look more favourably on a product because the person in the ad was physically attractive to them. When I first learnt that, I thought it was a joke. Like, they were actually joking that worked. I just couldn't believe it. At the end of the day, this is, obviously, just my experience. I would love to hear your queer experiences in the comments, asexual or not. If you're questioning, welcome. I'd love to hear your questions, and hopefully if I can't answer your questions, someone else can. Thanks for listening all the way through. Have an excellent Pride Month.